Hello, it's Kate here from Womankind, wishing you a warm welcome to Cyclical Living Unwrapped, where we explore the gifts and the challenges of cyclical life with experts in the field of menstruation, perimenopause, and cyclical living. And today I'm talking to the very dear Tara Ghosh. Confession, I opened our conversation when we met on Zoom saying, "Can I just look at you and drink you in?"
And I replicated. I feel the same way. Can I just gaze into your eyes, Kate? The love affair.
So you can see this is the sort of loving you're in for here. Anyway, let me tell you about, apart from her loveliness, to tell you about how Tara shows up professionally. She is a menstrual health educator, and she is passionate about supporting people with periods to feel strong, whatever season of life they're in, but particularly teens. She is a certified women's health coach, an abdominal therapist, which is brilliant stuff if you
Mm.
haven't encountered that, and works with people around the world one-to-one through workshops, helping them navigate period health and the menopause transition. And Tara is also a highly sought after speaker at schools, empowering the next generation to understand their bodies from the get-go. So, Tara, I'd love to know, what is your summer superpower? What trips you up in summer?
Mm. Yeah, so I think the thing that I think I should start this off by saying I only learned about my cycle in my late 30s and I'm 45 now. So I still feel like this is a new gift for me to understand these different phases and to be observant of what is my superpowers and what trips me up. And what I would say is that I really like cooking in my summer. Sometimes I literally am like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. What am I going to do? We have to feed people today. Oh, just that overwhelm of that constant day-to-day pressure of having to feed a family, which no one really prepares you for, actually. But I feel that that's an ease for me in the summer. And I really enjoy cooking, and I'm kind of bit more adventurous, and I'm able to kind of do that whole let's cook more and put it in the freezer so that when I am in my autumn self, I'm ready. And then what trips me up, I feel that like so many women that I speak to, you just are so full of energy, you think it will last forever. Right. And even though the work that I do, and I know it won't last forever, I plan ahead like I'm always going to be my summer self. And that is a disaster, right? Because you don't want, especially I always find it's like, oh, especially here in the UK, people need to be advanced notice for things. So if you say, oh, let's do something, they're like, okay, I'm free in about 2 weeks. Clearly, that's going to be your winter. So that ain't no good. So yeah, I'd say definitely planning too much for a phase of my cycle ahead.
Yeah, they always say, don't let your summer self be in charge of your diary, right? But I also think that the nature of summeriness is is a sense of omnipotence.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the feeling of that everything is possible. And so it's, how do you hold the omnipotence and the sense of boundless possibilities
Mm.
and your limitations?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
that's an
hard.
ongoing life adventure, isn't it?
It really is. And I think if we let, again, like I'm always saying, if we learned this when we were younger, that we would see that part of us, we'd be able to observe it more and more and learn to have the accelerator and then the brake. I
Yeah.
think that would be easier to balance.
Mm, thank you. And you mentioned your autumn self. Apart
Mm.
from having a freezer full of yummy food, what supports your autumn self?
I think, just knowing that I'm cyclical is the biggest support, and able to verbalize that to people close to me, like in my family, to be able to say where I'm at. Um, Having the language is what really supports me, so that I know that I can do something a little bit quieter, and even just taking those small bits of rest, even in a busy day, knowing that I can take those pockets, those micro moments of rest. And also because that your blood sugar is harder to regulate in your autumn, making sure I have a substantial savory breakfast really can make or break a day. Because if you have a tummy full of good food in the morning, then generally your moods are more stable in the as the day progresses. So I find that's the best way to support my autumn self.
Thank you. And can you say a bit more about finding the language? Because that's
Mm.
something that people often struggle with in their premenstrual phase. And
Yeah, I think just being able to say I'm a week before my period, sometimes as simple as that, for at least for the people in my family, I'm a week before my period and I want a bit more time to myself, or I don't want to hold your hand to my children, I don't want you to sit on my lap while we have dinner, or whatever that is, just being able to express it in kind of like an objective way, as opposed to a subjective, like you're annoying me, don't touch me. It's just like this is what I need now. This is just the foundations of what we need to happen so that we can continue functioning. And that has been a game changer, basically in our family life and in my married life, to be able to have that language. Say it's not you, it's where I'm at internally. And it's going to pass, but just in this phase, I feel very more focused. Although, I think my autumn self is also a little bit get shit done phase. So I like that. I'm kind of like, I'm really focused. That kind of like, I imagine it's a little bit like you're in surround sound for me during summer, and suddenly I go shh, and I get really narrowed and really focused, and I can only hear one thing, and that's what needs to be done. And I like that phase.
Mm. Mm. Beautifully described. Thank you. And you mentioned having pockets of rest.
Mm.
How do you do that? What is restful for you? What does it look like for you?
So definitely, like during my 20s and 30s, rest, the only way I thought could rest was either sleeping at night or a big fat 2-hour nap on a Saturday afternoon. I grew up in a family where napping at the weekends was really normalized. So that's how I saw rest. But the rest of the time, you went go, go, go the whole time. That's what I saw growing up. And that's what I very much did as a type A, recovering type A personality. Very much could only do that in my 20s and 30s. But it was revelatory to me to learn that resting, even for just 5 minutes, can have a huge effect on your mood, your energy, your hormones, how quickly you fall to sleep in the evening, how deeply you sleep in the evening. I had no idea that how you behave during the day could affect it, which is a bit silly saying it out loud now, but that's how I functioned. So for me, I do still like a big fat 2-hour nap, but that is a rarity. And so what I do like to do is 5 minutes lying down, listening to relaxing music. And there's one song, I think it's called Hymn for the Soul or something like that by Laor, Laor. I love that song. It's exactly 5 minutes. So I would put that on and lie down with my eyes closed and just listen to it. And 5 minutes is actually quite long sometimes. Like that felt like a really restorative amount of time for me. And I do it before I pick up the kids up from school. I also meditate. I do a meditation called Transcendental Meditation, TM, and I've done it since my mid-20s. But that's like 20 minutes. So this 5-minute pocket, I often sit in the road next to my kids' school with my eyes closed with that music blaring in the car before I go in. And I have no shame about that now, because often we are all programmed that we can sit in our car on our phone doing many WhatsApps or checking Instagram or whatever it is. But really, shouldn't we be applauding each other, and that you're taking that 5 minutes to actually close your eyes and just listen to some relaxing
Yeah.
music?
And what I imagine is that the sound of the music becomes a trigger that reminds you of and soothes your nervous system, and it has an exponential effect the longer that you use it.
Yeah. And I
Ooh,
just picked that song. I love it. I really love
good.
it.
That's
I think
good.
everyone needs to find one that works for them, that's around about 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever they know. So they're like, I can just do it for this amount of time.
I'm going to put
Not very
yours in the show notes.
Yeah,
Share the love.
great, great.
Tell me about spring. So spring meaning post menstruation. What are the challenges and joys of your spring?
I actually don't have much joys in this phase of my cycle. Most people feel like they're coming back to themselves, they feel themselves again. And again, only as a result of tracking my cycle over the last 5+ years, do I realize that around day 6 or 7 is my worst phase of my cycle. With that rise in estrogen, it really increases my anxiety. And I feel a bit tetchy and a bit irritable, and I really don't like that phase. By about day 9 or 10, I'm myself again. I shouldn't say myself. We're ourselves the whole cycle long, but I feel more comfortable at that phase. But I I feel like a very challenging phase of my cycle, but knowing that it is a challenging phase just helps so much. And I always share with people that there's many ways to track your cycle. I have such a boring way to track my cycle. I don't have my notebook to hand, but it's an A4 lined pad. And in the left-hand column, I put day 1 and I put the date, and then I write one sentence on how I'm feeling. And it was only from doing this. And what I like about this, even though it is quite school-like, the fact that it's like an A4 line pad, is you can line up the pages side by side and really see a pattern. And that is what identified, I really am not happy around day 6 or 7. That's a really often an irritable time for me, or just I often want to quit my job at that time. I just have inner critic is so loud.
And how do you care for that?
I think with all those things, it's doing things to calm my nervous system more. Having those 5 minutes lie down with the eyes closed. And I like just stroking myself as well, soothing my nervous system like that, or holding myself in this way with my hands wrapped around my neck in a very gentle way. And really, it's the inner talk for me personally. It is just saying, you're doing fine. This is okay. This will pass. You're doing great. I love you. You're fine. This is fine. That is really helpful to me. I know more people need other things, but for me, that's enough. And also, I'm a massive fan of magnesium. So it might be during that time. I like for my abdominal massage every night, I use magnesium lotion. I put magnesium balm on my feet every night. Like I love magnesium, but it might be around that time that when I'm at my desk, that I do an Epsom salt foot soak. I always think the commitment of having a bath is sometimes a step too far for me and many people. So using a bucket under your desk, put a towel down, put a bucket there, hot water and some Epsom salts. Just the ratio is important. So it's 1 tablespoon of Epsom salts to 1 litre of water, because otherwise it becomes saline solution and it won't get absorbed by your through your skin. And that just gives me, it feels nourishing, it feels grounding, it just feels like a treat. So those kind of things do help with my anxiety too.
Thank you. And my observation is that anxiety post-menstruation I often see it showing up or becoming stronger in perimenopause.
Interesting.
And I think that people feel, again, that they're losing the plot.
Yeah, because they're like, I'm supposed to be a moody bitch the week before my period. Like, why do I feel anxious and inner critic at this phase? Isn't it supposed to be the good phase, is what you're thinking inside? And it's, well, I don't have that data, Kate. Like, I only started tracking this kind of at the start of my perimenopause.
Yeah.
So I can't reflect back and say, well, actually, day 6 used to be a breeze, and I wish I had that to reflect on.
And, had you been educated as a teen, then things would be, educated in cyclical awareness as a teen, then things will be different. So tell me the sorts of things that you bring to your teenage people.
Oh, thank you, Kate. So I start with them quite young, actually. So I do a period ready workshop for 8 to 12-year-olds. In fact, I have a bunch of 7-year-olds I'm doing soon, which is just, oh my God, I can't tell you how much joy that brings.
You have to restrain yourself from pinching cheeks.
Oh, they're just the best. And the questions, and they're just so like open and just don't mind the word saying the word vulva and stuff. I find the kind of a real sweet spot with that is about 10, because they might, people might be getting boobs in their class. The changes are happening at that stage. So that's the period ready workshop, which I do in person here in Southwest London or outside London, and online as well. I do that either in a group setting, or I do it with a mum and their child. And then I work one-to-one with teens, which is a huge passion of mine, because how many women have you met, Kate, who say, I've had this problem since I was a teenager? No one helped me, or I just went to the doctor and they put me on the pill. And the pill had its place. The pill can be a great pause from that monthly hell if you're a teenager, but it can't be the only solution we have for period problems. So, and there is so much easy stuff you can do with teens to help with their period, really. And I always joke it's the 3 things: pooing, sleep, and joy. Like, working on those 3 foundations can make a massive difference to acne, PMS, period issues. And then I also go into schools, and that is what I absolutely adore doing as well, because for someone to find me and work with me one-to-one, or someone to find me and plan this workshop for their 10-year-old, they have to be on this path already, Kate. They need to be kind of on, you know, on this journey. Whereas in school, you are just you're hitting the masses. And that is what I'm really passionate about, is that everyone should have this information. This should not be ring-fenced or privileged information. This should be common knowledge. And as I always joke, I want to do myself out of a job. I want it to be that this language and this information is everywhere, so that mothers pass it to children, that the aunties pass it on, cousins share it with each other. It doesn't have to be a special or an advantage to have met me, to have met you, met any of our amazing colleagues. It needs to just be back into the common domain like it used to be.
Yeah,
Before.
absolutely. And, you know, very importantly, educating boys as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And at schools, it's interesting. I've had co-ed schools where they only want me to speak with the girls. It's disappointing. You know, this is half the global population have a period, but the other half are alive because of it. You know, we all need to be having this discussion, and everyone needs to understand this.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. I mean, it's so valuable and so needed. Where do we find you?
Thank you.
Where can the hordes, where can the hordes of head teachers stampede towards, Tara?
They can stampede towards my email at hello@taraghosh.com or my website, taraghosh.com. Also, my Instagram handle is _taraghosh_. So come and find me there as well.
Thank you so much, Tara. And if you're curious about your inner seasons and you're navigating perimenopause, we've designed an online course with you in mind. Perimenopause Unwrapped shines a light on the unconscious processes that are colouring your perimenopause experience. And it brings more awareness, choice, and compassion to your transition, so you can move from fear to trust. And we'd be delighted to welcome you there. And if you have any questions, you can contact Leora and me through our website, woman-kind.co.uk, or the details for the course are in the show notes.